Hi guys, this is Breaker, and I am back with another replay that I took from the front page of Drop.sc. And this one, all I know is that it's between a Protoss and a Terran. And what I did was with this replay, I simply tried my best to avoid making eye contact with the time that the replay lasted. This way, I actually am going to be completely surprised as to when it ends. Before, I've always had some idea or some clue as to when it ends, but without further ado, let's go ahead and get this replay started. I don't even remember the players' names as I read it. I was looking for symbols, Protoss symbols, Zerg symbols, and so on and so forth. It looks like we're going to have MaxFlo Pal, who is a Grandmaster, going up against a player who belongs to the YBS clan by the name of Elethyn, or something like that. Anywho, let's get the names up and going. There we are. And in the lower left-hand corner, spawning is our Zerg. I introduced him at the title screen, the loading screen. That would be a big mistake of me. Here we have Elethyn. And in the lower right-hand corner, MaxFlo Pal. Now, my goal for this cast is going to be simply trying to work on my play-by-play, not so much the analyses part, because that is definitely not my forte. I do go into my replays that I lose. I do try to check and see what drove me nuts, what made me lose, things of that nature, and everything else in between. But this time, I think what I really need to work on is my public speaking, my ability to cast, my ability to call things play-by-play style, and so on and so forth. This is also one of my favorite matchups. Zerg versus Terran must be my #1 favorite because, of course, it's just so crazy to see drops that cannot be insta-killed by something like a feedback and a stalker shot combined. Not dissing on Protoss at all, I really am not. It's just that I feel that it just has so much more room for action and attention if you are on the defending side for Zerg, if that makes sense. In other news today, I have acquired today's TESL replays. I am simply not going to go ahead and cast them. I'd rather not do that because if I did, then I would actually be... What's the word I'm looking for? I feel like it would be ruining quality. I'm trying to set up a program on TeamLiquid.net, but of course, the reason why I'm not doing that tonight is simply due to the fact that I would have to compete with these bigger events. I mean, the Red Bull Training Grounds is going to be overlapping with the Pro League in Korea. So that's absolutely no fun. I mean, only 20-something people will actually be able to see it. So I'm thinking of just doing this Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday nights from now on. And it looks like our Protoss finally decided to get this game developed and went for double gas before Cybernetics Core, albeit one later than the other. But he hasn't even actually moved out with a probe yet to scout his opponent. Particularly strange for a GM level player. I feel I have to have that sense of security of sending a drone scout every single game whenever I'm playing on a ladder. It just gives you that stronger sense that, okay, well, my opponent's actually doing this at the right time. My opponent is doing this at the time that I'm taking notes at, and so on and so forth. Like, on my notebook here in ZVT, I went back, I looked at the replay, and now I know what time to look for a 1-Rax Expo. I know what to look for if my opponent is going to just be going for a command center first versus a Zerg opponent. Things of that nature. Mothership Core is now on the way. Queen is also on the way. But of course, nothing too terribly exciting developing just from this game just yet. Now, the reason why I have a notebook in front of me is because there's a highly revered caster in China. He's called Little Color, or Little Pervert would be a better translation for it. But he's highly revered amongst all players in China, all StarCraft fans in China, and so on and so forth. But hang on, here's our first bit of deviation. We actually have a huge ton of lings. I'm just going to leave you guys with this. He told me to take notes on every single replay of a game that I lose. Here we go. Elethyn is going to be moving out, and we are going to see just what from Pal. I don't know, but the Overlord, did it see all of that? It's just so hard to say. He did see that it was a bit of a late expo, yes, of course, and now the Lings are running into the main. They could actually get some probe kills here, but it looks like they're being a little bit mismicroed by our Green Zerg. And here they are in the main. Nothing to warp in, nothing to stop them just yet, and that's gonna cost them just a bit of economy. Wow. If we're just to look at the army supply right now, that's 6 army supply. If he gets 6 probe kills, those Lings have paid for themselves. But no, it's going to be 5 plus some delayed mining time, which is just as good in my opinion. Oh, just as I say that, the 6th probe does fall. And look at that. It looks like, unfortunately, Pal was taxed just a little bit there. So overall, this attack, especially if you can get this gateway, that will definitely pay for itself. It's going to hinder production for a while. Photon Overcharge goes down to the Nexus, and that's going to clean up the last of these Lings, and it looks like they will maybe not get that gate. They do. Just at the last second, Elethyn clicked on that one gate, and let's check the losses for both players. So that's 5, slightly more for Protoss, but once you stack on the Worker's kill, which we have here, that amounts to be mining time as well. So checking the worker count right now, we have our Zerg player coming out just slightly ahead, and he's going to be droning up behind us. Now, of course, he is going to throw another wave of Lings at this, see what he can do. And that seems to be it for now. Now, some good things to mention about this for our Zerg player. This gives him map control. He is free to patrol the map as he pleases, looking for proxy pylons, things of that nature, but he's also going for a Baneling Nest right now. And it looks as though he didn't get too many drones in the makes. He's going to be droning up for this. I'm wondering what he could be doing with this. There is 1 or 2 points where he could put where he could put Banelings, but the force field on the sentries would probably negate that, if even just for a short 15-second period. It would also force his Protoss opponent to crank out more sentries, which in and of itself would be economic damage. We do have a Stargate follow-up coming up from Powell, and he's going to be trying to hold his ground against this. The Lings, of course, just being microed to outrun the Mothership Core, kind of reducing the DPS, and this just seals it, ladies and gentlemen. Elethyn is going to be going for a Roach Warren, and if he does not go in there and kill a poop ton more probes, then we could see this game ending in favor of Powell. Like, the game will instantly switch from the economic lead that we have from Elethyn straight to that of Powell. The Banelings are coming over here. They're going to see what's over here, but I'm thinking that maybe, just maybe, as long as we see immaculate force field placement from Powell, then he will be able to hold this. But again, we have 6 Roaches on the way, 7 now, and 1-for-1 Roaches certainly cannot take on sentries. A Zealot can barely, 1-for-1 a Roach can take down a sentry, but Zealots just barely can take down 1-for-1 can just barely take down Roaches. That's it. Stalker now out here trying to shoo away that Overlord, keeping it from getting in, scouting, and so on and so forth. And now it seems that our Protoss is just trying to figure out where his opponent is, just now. At this stage in the game, not a single wink of vision on Elethyn, and it looks like... No, I'm sorry. Elethyn's actually going for what appears to be some kind of a defensive expo. So, again, not doing anything risky. We just have to wait and see those Roaches move across the map if he is actually poised to make anything happen to his opponent. I think what happened is Elethyn had just simply seen those sentries and thought to himself, okay, well, I'm not going to try and make anything in the way of economic damage happen right now. I've gotten 6 probes already. I spent 12 Lings on that. And I also got a gateway. So right now he's basically under the impression that he has a secure-ish lead. This Phoenix is just a hallucination, but there are real Phoenixes right here. And at this level of play, I feel it makes a difference, because if Elethyn is paying attention to his Overlords, he'll notice that there's no damage done to them, and just as we see our Protoss going for the third, he's forced to cancel as he saw a bunch of Roaches parked outside. Now the question is, what can he do? He's going to try and make some economic damage happen right now, be it in the form of Overlords or otherwise, but meanwhile we have Elethyn trying to push in here. Roach is not able to get in. There's quite a few sentries here, but in order for them to Infinihold, there's going to have to be a lot more in the way of sentries here. We're going to need easily 8 more sentries just for an infinite wall of force fields to go down. It looks like slowly but surely that one gateway falls. It's going to cost a lot of production on our Protoss. Floating already a good deal of minerals. No pylons here to actually help hold this. And essentially we have Elethyn trying to break his way down here. It could work. I don't know, this Mothership Core going at it like a boss. Now with 13 kills, trying to do what it can to help hold the ground here at the ramp. With that, it seems that we're going to have Elethyn kind of pulling back for the time being. And behind this, we actually have some drones in production. So this says to me that perhaps, just perhaps, we will see Elethyn just put on forward pressure and back off. This is also economic damage done, but I'll get to that in just a moment. Here we go. The Roaches are trying to steamroll through this. The time warp's going down, however. force fields, excuse me, the sentries are falling without any energy for force fields, and the roaches are just powering their way into the main. Meanwhile, we have reinforcing hydras on the way to help couple this assault. And it looks like there's just too many roaches for the phoenixes to handle here. There really is. I mean, they've only got enough for 2 graviton beams. The gateway units are going to try and make their way into the main now and deal with that. Slowly but surely, it looks like we may just have our Protoss stabilizing. 2 stalkers warp into the main. The phoenixes, again, out of energy, no pickups for them. And we have even more probes falling. That's going to bring it to 21 altogether. And these roaches just being super annoying. They're ignoring the stalkers altogether and just going for the mineral line. And that is the way Zerg is meant to be played. But right now, if we just check the army supply difference, it's not that big. This is not ideally where you should be as Zerg, but given that all of the units are hard counters, I feel this is going to work out somewhat in favor of Elethyn. The only thing that we really have to worry about is Zealot-Ling interaction. I also need to highlight at this moment that Zerg has 0 upgrades. And here we are. Void Ray, if it falls, that's going to mean a lot to the composition of PAL for now. It looks like for the moment, we actually have PAL kind of stabilizing, able to hold his ground against this. The last Void Ray still alive for the moment. Nothing can shoot up. We see PAL holding yet again. Upgrades for both players now are non-existent. I think PAL is actually somewhat reluctant to get them because of the fact that he's been under assault for so much, and also he went with the Stargate opener. Excuse me, a Stargate follow-up. We have sentries and stalkers now being warped in, and Protoss is floating a lot of minerals. That's what oversaturation on your natural and main will do, even if it is just by 1 or 2 probes. And what is this? I hear something morphing. There it is, an Overseer. It's going to be shot down. The question is, will it be stopped from morphing? Will it get any info? Looks like the answer is yes. And right now, the Phoenixes, 1 for 1, can take on all these Hydras. But what's going to outdo what is the question? And that is some excellent decision-making from PAL. It really is. That's gonna make a huge difference in future engagements. The Hydra count, because of course the Void Rays, if they increase in number, which it appears that seems to be the motive for PAL presently, then there's just gonna be a lot less Hydras to combat them. And 1 for 1, a Void Ray is more than enough to take down a single Hydra. The Phoenix is coming back, looking for some revenge, and the resources lost are double now for our Zerg than they are for our Protoss. He is, of course, going to continue and try and put more salt in the wounds of Elethyn. As if losing double your opponent's army supply was not bad enough, we actually have PAL coming back with a vengeance. Probe here waiting for that moment to throw down the 3rd base, and he's got more than enough minerals to do it right now. The question is, does he have the army to, hold against something like that? We see now that Colossi have joined the mix. We have a double Robo Bay, double Robo Facility, and now a Robotics Bay researching Extended Thermal Lance. No upgrades yet, really, in terms of attack or carapace for either player, or even, just shields for Protoss. Now, we have Elethyn trying to move into this. And the force fields are kind of keeping that one roach from getting out. Poor guy. Yeah, look at those StarCraft physics, guys. Just beautiful, aren't they? The Observer, of course, was out in a bit of an extent, and did give him vision of that. Looks like these Phoenixes have been picked up on by our Zerg. They took a few scratches from the Hydras on the ground. Excuse me. And now, I think we're going to have our Zerg trying to go at his opponent without the economic means to really sustain the army that he has. Here we go. That's a huge engagement point. But of course, the force fields, as long as they're beautiful, he'll be able to section off the armies and choose which parts of them to engage. The Ling's getting a full surround, though. And the Void Ray actually falls. But as long as these Colossi are alive, I think we'll see our Protoss in an okay position. He's just got to be able to back up a little bit more. These Colossi acting like snipers to what we see here from the Roaches and Hydras with only 4 and 6 attack range. Excuse me, 4 and 5 attack range, as those are slow Hydras off creep, ladies and gentlemen. And PayPal, excuse me, wow, PayPal. MaxFlo's PAL is actually getting into a position to push back. He has the larger army supply, and I'm pretty sure he has the ability to gauge that, being a GM level Protoss. His main is going dry, and he knows that this is essentially do or die time, more or less. These Phoenixes, again, just coming in, being annoying, getting some worker kills all their own, and PAL getting 8 worker kills altogether since the beginning of this game. It's now 51 probes to 44 drones. The drone count is increasing, but I think maybe our Zerg is akin to the fact that it may be just a little bit too late. He's going into macro mode after having lost so much in the way of army. So much gas. I mean, Hydras in themselves are twice the price of roaches, if I'm not mistaken. No, I believe it's 100. Yes, 100 minerals, 50 gas. Still, gas seems to be the real, what's the word I'm looking for, the real bottleneck for Hydra production. So every time you lose a Hydra at this stage in the game, it's almost like losing 2 roaches. Not in terms of mineral count, but again in terms of gas count. Gas is the most important thing in the late game because you're not going for any cheesy builds. You're not going for 6 pool or anything like that. But wait a minute, these Lings, they come in here and they spot the 3rd. Oh no, they don't. They don't actually, but I'm pretty sure that Elethyn is perfectly aware of that. We do also have Mutas now joining the mix, and there's only a handful of Phoenix here. But again, the army supply, I think it's obviously in favor of our Protoss. Look at this. Blink now going down, so that's really going to help for, say, aggressive engagements versus these Mutas, but the Phoenixes will be something to fall back on, if nothing else. Here we go, the huge engagement, Force Field's going down, separating the Hydras. They can't get their DPS in, and even if they could, they didn't have the range upgrade, so that would be almost useless versus Force Fields with this distance. There it is, the GG, well played from Elethyn. He just knew it was over. Ladies and gentlemen, if you guys liked what you saw here today, or if you have any feedback to give me whatsoever, please just leave a comment on this video. This is Breaker. I will see you guys next time.